Yes, yes, give in to your anger. Let the hate flow through you. Wow! Welcome back to the Red Ones Go Fast. Old Big Mick here, and that's right. The Imperial Guard have gotten their new codex, and that's a really good thing for orcs. I'll explain it all. Let's get into it. All right. This video is definitely going to be for two completely different audiences, but there's a lot of overlap on that Venn diagram. We've actually talked about that a lot. The most common second army for an orc player to have is Imperial Guard. We like tanks, what can I say? But yeah, we have a whole slew of new things coming out that has just been kind of banana pants, and there's been a lot of reverberations in people's collections and online, and I just wanted to talk about it because it actually affects me too. All right, let's set the stage for those of you that have been living under a rock. It is Warhammer 40,000 10th edition, and when 10th edition dropped in the summer of 2023, everything went to an index. It means all the codexes were null and void. Everything got reset. And then new codexes have been coming out, kind of haltingly, but they've been coming out for the armies. And it is now Astra Militarim's term, the Imperial Guard. Now, normally that's a good thing. Most of the codex releases have been pretty good. All of the armies are getting at least one new model. Imperial Guard in particular are getting an entirely new range, which we'll get into here in a second. But the army pre-order has come up. People are actually starting to get their hands on boxes. There was a huge leak of codex. I wouldn't really call it a leak. It was more like things got shipped a little early. And people talked about it because they own it, and it's their book, and they can do whatever they want with it, and that's totally cool. And there's a lot of rules and stuff like that. And obviously, if you are a hardcore Guard player and you want to know all these interactions, there are a million YouTube videos about all that kind of stuff. That's not really the point of this video. What we are talking about is the collections themselves, the models themselves. For those of you that haven't been around Warhammer as long as Old Big Mech, you might not know this, but the Imperial Guard used to have one of the absolute largest ranges in all of Warhammer. In fact, it was one of the OGs, the original, things that made Warhammer what it is today. You see, you had the Space Marines that came out and all that good stuff, and they started getting more chapters to them, and those chapters got specific models and stuff. The Imperial Guard was always there, and the Imperial Guard started getting more regiments, and regiments were from different worlds. You had your original Cadians that were kind of the poster boys, but then you had the Catachans, which were space Vietnam warrior guys with all buff and no shirts on and stuff. And then you started getting other ones. You had the Valhallan Ice Warriors who were in a snowfield. You had the Talorn Desert Raiders that were based off of World War II North Africa. You had the Mordian Iron Guard in their dress blues uniform. And then more and more started coming after that. Vostroyan Firstborns, Armageddon Steel Legion. You had Elysian Drop Troops. Then you started getting into Kasrkin became a thing, and Scions became a thing. And Imperial Guard had all of these wonderful, flavorful units and regiments. Now, the result of all of these regiments existing, besides having really amazing lore and photos and background in all of the codexes, is that we had full mini ranges, or at least partial mini ranges for a lot of them. Your Valhallans, Talorns, Mordians, Catachans, and Cadians were the kind of the big five, and they had full sets. You had your actual metal guard squads, you had heavy weapons teams with all the various heavy weapons, you had command squads with the different leaders, and then you had individual leaders you could buy in blister packs and stuff. There have even been some really cool rare things such as tank riders. And since seeing is way cooler than just listening, here is a OG original Valhallan Ice Warrior from Games Workshop. This is a metal guy. You see the little tabby there in the little slotted base. And yeah, that is one of the sculpts that I have in my own personal army. Here is a sergeant leading that squad of the Valhallan Ice Warriors. And then one of the special weapons here is a flamethrower guy. Very cool. So yeah, you had this whole range of minis available for multiple editions. Let's go over a couple more. There is our comms person from the Command Squad set, as well as a rocket launcher. Never want to call it a missile launcher, because if you say missile, it has the word miss in it, and then you always miss your shot. So rocket launcher. And then even special characters, including this guy right here. I have his cape too. It's down in the bottom. But yeah, this is like the regimental leader of the entire Valhallans. So yeah, you had these really cool special characters as well. And then like I said, things like these tank riders, this guy right here, designed to ride on the Hellhound. So these are fully fledged factions that Games Workshop has made. Now, in the years since, those have started falling away. Your more esoteric ones were kind of the first to go. Elysian Drop Troops kind of only had the one squad, and then they disappeared. Your Vostroyan Firstborn, despite having a whole army, were very, very limited run. They remain one of the most expensive ones to get and collect. The Mordians kind of went out of favor and went out of production. And then Talorn and Valhalla left as well. And you got left with Cadian, Catachan, and that was it. And those also had plastic kits, so a lot of the metal models went away or were replaced by plastic, kind of leaving you with just two left standing. Well, now fast forward to 2025, got the Guard refresh. Cadians are still around, fully refreshed, fully plastic, and looking quite different with knee pads and things like that, but, you know, very cool looking. Still involving the Kasserkin and all of the, you know, special Cadian forces. And then you still have Catachan, albeit still with the really, really, really old, at this point, probably the oldest plastic kit Games Workshop has for regular troops. Still in production. And then the, of course, all new thing being the Death Corps of Krieg. They are the new greatcoat guys designed to replace your Armageddon Steel Legion. Now, I know some of you that aren't Guard players are probably going, okay, what's the point of all of this? You know, Games Workshop changes over, you know, styles of army all the time and different, you know, units and things like that. Imagine, if you will, Space Marines, right? And you had like Blood Angels and Dark Angels and Space Wolves and whatnot. And then they stopped making all of those, and they're going to make a new chapter instead. We'll call them the, oh, I don't know, Dark Bloods. And the Dark Bloods get a whole new model range. Meanwhile, the Blood Angels and the Dark Angels no longer exist. That would be kind of weird. And yeah, I know about like Primaris and all that, but the actual chapters stayed. So these regiments of Guard, they're not just different sculpts. They were completely different play styles. They were completely different lore. They were completely different on the tabletop. And now they've all disappeared. Now, they have been disappeared for quite a while now, let's be honest, but you could still play them. And in fact, Games Workshop even did a whole bunch of made-to-order stuff for a lot of them. Valhallans and the Armageddon Steel Legion specifically within the last 18 months have gotten full ability to just order anything outright and add it back into your collection. The problem is, the rules up until now have allowed you to continue to use all of those cool ancient units and regiments, because all of those old regiments were made with the regular infantry squad as the standard. And the regular infantry squad included a heavy weapon. Now, originally, like you saw in the little rocket launcher guy, they were on individual 25mm bases. And then you'd end up with, like, the heavy bolter guy was on a little kind of carriage thing with some wheels on it. And then you had a loader on a 25mm base. So they weren't even on a big base. And then later on, they decided, well, you should really put them on big bases. And a lot of us did do some, you know, making that happen. In fact, here is my Armageddon Steel Legion rocket launcher, grenade launcher guy, RPG guy. Again, not a missile launcher, has the word miss in it. Don't do that. But yeah, instead of being two individual 25mm bases, what I actually did is snipped their little tab thingies into spikes so that I could spike them into this large base so that they would be fully legal to play. Now, here's where you get into the problem. The brand new codex that has come out, and again, if you want to get like super deep in all the rules and stuff, you can go do that. We're talking specifically about models. The original Guard infantry squad is gone. You can only be a Cadian squad, a Catachan squad, or a Krieg squad. On the surface, you're like, okay, fine. So play your Valhallans as Krieg or whatever, and you're fine. None of those 3 squads allow you to take a heavy weapons team or a heavy weapon in the squad itself. These have now been kapoofed into nothingness. This no longer exists. Now, I know my first reaction was, okay, I'll take all the heavy weapons teams out of my squads, redo my squad so that it's 10 regular guys, and turn all my heavy weapons teams into literal heavy weapons team units. These also kind of really don't exist. Again, you only have Cadians or Catachans or Kriegs. The Kriegs have their own kind of crazy siege units now. The Cadians now have those much larger siege things. And so really getting heavy weapons teams like this is not the same. They're not the same generic unit that they were. You don't have the same options. Some of the old school weapons don't even exist anymore. Good luck with a heavy stubber. So the result of all of that is that you now have a large contingent of Guard players and collectors from the way back times that now no longer have legal armies. And they're likely going to call it there. You can either turn that army into a 30K army, use it as a vintage only army, put it on the display shelf only, but a lot of those classic units are just gone. That also means you're going to have a lot of players just selling out. They're going to be done. I mean, all of those metal minis, they are worth quite a lot of teeth on the secondary market. So yeah, if you are a Guard player and you do want to keep playing Guard and you're sitting on a horde of something cool, it's pretty tasty right now to go, you know what? Fine. Let's do it then. Sell all the metal guys online or whatnot and use all of that money to buy the new guys. That does mean that you're going to end up with a lot of vehicles that are going out as well, especially being that the whole sponson, no sponson thing has happened as well. Back in the day, you used to have to pay for the sponsons. They weren't very popular. A lot of people had smooth side tanks, and then the sponsons were free in the war gear because there was no more points for things, and then everybody had to put them back on, and yeah, now there's like other things going on. So there's a lot of tanks rolling around out there that, or like now tank commanders that aren't the same and things like that. So you can get your hands on some secondhand Guard stuff that's pretty cheap and affordable, especially the units that didn't really make the cut or have changed really significantly, like the Sentinel, the Scout Walker thing, the little chicken walker. The new one is significantly larger than the old one, and with the aesthetics of the old one not really fitting in, and especially with, if people have ones that have the old school metal riders or bits on them, those are going to be worth money. The all plastic ones really aren't worth anything at all. You can pick those up cheap. Maybe make yourself a new Killacan out of one. But yeah, the long and the short of it is there's a lot of Guard stuff that is about to hit the market. Some of it is going to be very vintage and very, expensive. Some of it is going to be very, very cheap. And then you're also going to have a lot of new stuff hitting the market. And the reason for that is these new models, especially like those heavy weapons we were talking about, especially the new Krieg ones, they come with all the different weapons, but only the 2 crew members. So there's going to be a ton of different rocket launchers and mortars and heavy las guns and things like that that are extra bits. So Orc players, you need to make yourself friends with a Guard player if you're not already a Guard player, because they're going to have a lot of extra DACA that you might be able to nick off of them, whether it's old stuff or new stuff. It's all Def Guns to us. And to the Guard players out there, or especially, like I said, the Orc and Guard players in one, it's not like when Orcs started getting their glow up and started getting things changed around. Our clans, as much as they have the lore and the background and the models and stuff, they were never separate rules. You never really had anything that was like, oh, only Bad Moons can do this kind of thing. The closest thing you had was Speed Freaks, which was different from Evil Sons. Yes, Evil Sons are often Speed Freaks, but not all Speed Freaks are Evil Sons. So that was even never a thing. And as our models got changed up and stuff, we were able to keep using them as the new unit, convert them into something else, and kind of keep going. These Guard players do not have that option. It is just not the same thing anymore. If you want to truly run a fully Games Workshop legal army and also have it be a cool old regiment, you're either going to need to spend $1 million on vintage models to have all of these teams without heavy weapons in them, because even if you buy a box, that box of 10 has the 2 heavy weapons guys in it. You're really going to be going crazy trying to get enough pieces. Or you're just going to go, you know what, forget it, I'll use the new stuff And yeah, it's going to be a whole new world out there for Guard players, which means a whole new world out there for Guard bits if you're into, you know, scavenging and that kind of thing, which we are. Now, I did say that this affects me personally. Obviously, I showed you some of my Valhallan stuff. I actually have quite a bit of Guard stuff. I've talked about this in other videos, and I am splitting my army out. I'm kind of doing all the bases. I have these vintage Valhallans that I'm really not ready to get, you know, like let go of yet. They are safely tucked away for future investment purposes, but all of my old school Cadian stuff, all of my older Imperial Guard things, they're just gone. I am getting rid of all of it. I am selling it all off, and I am going to use whatever proceeds I do get into buying the new things, because I think that as much as I am a converter and as much as I love converting armies and making things work and making cool, unique things that you can use in the game, I think that that time has come and gone for Guard. The codex has moved too far. The rules have moved too far. The regiments of old just don't exist anymore. And, you know, pour one out for your brothers, but it's okay. I just don't see a viable path forward, but also the new stuff is really, really, really cool. And hey, maybe one day the Catachan will get a glow up the way the Death Court of Krieg did, which would be really awesome because those Catachan special characters are on point. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do personally. It's probably what most Guard players are going to do. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. If you are into collecting the vintage stuff, you might be able to start picking some up as old players finally let go of their iron grip on their Iron Guard. And, you know, again, a lot of new stuff is going to have a lot of options and a lot of bits that might be ripe for the looting. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for listening to me yap and looking at my old school metal figures. I'll catch you in the next video, and until then, Wagon!